So, your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
Good evening, good evening. We're running about 8 minutes late, but we're here. Another Monday night, the first in the month of June, June 3rd. And our special guest this evening, the dynamic J.D. Keynes from constituency, the caretaker for constituency number 1. Always a pleasure, J.D., to have you.
Good evening, Mr. Manners, and I definitely want to say good evening to everyone who's tuned to Your Voice with the NRP, of course, on 2020 Vision Radio. It's certainly a pleasure to be in your company for this another Monday evening. I expect a packed show where we have lots of things that we want to talk about, and naturally, I have to start by extending greetings to all residents of Nevis, particularly those in the St. Paul constituency. I want to say good evening, and I hope that you have been doing well. I want to equally say good evening to those of you in the diaspora who continue to offer your support even via distance. So thank you so much, and I look forward to your engagement this evening on Your Voice with the NRP. Now, as always as well, I have to offer condolences to all who are mourning at this point in time. Mr. Manners, I know that your family recently suffered a loss, and so please accept my deepest sympathy on the passing of your sister. Sorry I couldn't make it to the service this week, but I'm told that Dr. Daniel Hodge was there standing in for the rest of us.
And there were others as well from the NRP here.
Yes, yes. So my condolences to you and your entire family. I also want to extend sympathies to the family of the late Mr. William Griffin of Hamilton in Nevis. He should be laid to rest this week. And so to his entire family, his wife and his daughter, grandson, and everyone else who mourn his passing, please accept my deepest sympathy. You know, Mr. Griffin, I'm happy that, you know, we had the opportunity to visit him a few times, you know, before his passing, had the opportunity to speak with him. And, you know, he spoke a lot about things way back, you know. He reflected a bit on the Methodist Church and, you know, the operations. And that seemed to be what was fresh in his memory, you know, things from a little bit further back. And so it was still refreshing to hear him, you know, speak about the circumstances as he knew them. And so I know that he will definitely be missed, but I'm glad that we had the opportunity to dialogue with him. I also want to extend deepest sympathies to the family of the late Joelle Huggins. We know her as Darlene in Hamilton and Charlestown by extension. Darlene is from Hamilton as well, and we know that she was killed recently. And so to Omel, Kimoy, Nana, and Rondo, and the entire family, we want to offer our sincerest. I mean, every opportunity I get, I have to extend my deepest condolences to all of you and the entire community, because I know that you are shaken. I mean, it's not a good scene in Hamilton right now, and we certainly need to do better. And not just Hamilton, Nevis, and St. Kitts and Nevis. And I'm going to touch on crime in a bit, but I just want to offer my condolences again to the family of the late Joelle Darlene Huggins, especially to her immediate family. All right, Mr. Manners, I think this is the first time I've been here since we had that lunch and leisure activity. So in a bit, I want to just give a little bit of an update or commentary rather regarding that activity, but not before I encourage everyone under the sound of my voice to donate if you are able to the medical expenses of Pearline Powell, also of Hamilton. She's actually the neighbor of Omel. And so Pearline has a tumor in her brain, and she has to travel overseas in order to get surgery. It's affecting her eyesight at this point in time, and so she really needs to get that surgery done. But you know, these things cost a lot of money, and she is helping herself. She is really trying to see where she can get assistance, and you know, she's really trying. She's not just sitting down waiting for everyone to help. She's trying. So I am asking, as I've been doing on social media, if anyone is able to give a contribution. It could be $5, it could be $5,000, whatever it is, it will be greatly appreciated. You can give me your contribution. You can give it to Pearline. You can give it to her daughter. I have an account number, because I know when I made the post, some persons asked about an account number. If you want to make a contribution that way, that's fine as well. So she has an account at the Bank of Nevis, and the account number is 182-839-182-839. Okay, that's an account for Pearline Powell of Hamilton, and later, a little bit later, I'll share that again with you. But if you are able to, please contribute to this. Pearline is a lovely lady, very simple lady, hardworking. For those who may not be so familiar, Pearline is the mother, was the mother of Javancia Powell. Javancia died last year or year before, and left 2 daughters behind. And I mean, I must commend the family, great support system for the children, but Pearline is the main caretaker, and so it's just sad that this now has to happen to Pearline. So if you can help, please do. Please do. Anything, I've already been receiving some contributions. Anything that comes my way will go definitely directly to Pearline. And if you want to donate to the bank account, through the bank account, again, it's at the Bank of Nevis, and the account number is 182-839. That's Pearline Powell of Hamilton. Okay, now regarding lunch and leisure, Mr. Manners, so that's an activity that the NRP had on Mother's Day. It was held at the Occasions Entertainment Center, and of course it was the second one, and like last year, it was a huge hit. I mean, it was really good, very well attended, and it was just celebrating mothers with a difference. And this year we had a theme: hats, heels and bags, and so we encourage mothers to come out with their fancy hats, their heels and or bags, and they definitely did that. We even had an impromptu modeling competition where mothers came up and they showcased their hats, heels and bags. So that was refreshing. And what I like about the hats, heels and bag edition of Lunch and Leisure, it was just about celebrating mothers. We paid no attention to your political affiliation. It was just about celebrating mothers, and we need a lot more of that on the island of Nevis. So to everyone who contributed to it, many persons gave donations, sponsored prizes, we say thank you, thank you, thank you. Whether your contribution was big or if you think it was small, understand that it was definitely well appreciated. To the persons who donated food or food items, those who prepared the meals, those who helped with the decor, Dr. Bartlett for this use of her space, everyone who contributed, we say thank you so much for your assistance, your contribution to Lunch and Leisure 2024.
Okay, across the Narrows, the political landscape is shifting, as it did in Nevis around 2021, I think it was, when Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, the party leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, became the first female to lead a major political party in the Federation. It's happening over in St. Kitts 3 years after, JD.
Mr. Manners, I definitely want to use this platform to extend congratulations to Natasha Shani Gray Brooks on being elected as the first female leader. Well, let me go back. On being elected as the leader of the People's Action Movement, firstly. So that is tremendous, and I want to congratulate Natasha. I want to congratulate Natasha as well as being the first female leader of a political party on St. Kitts. So congratulations to you, Natasha. I want to congratulate Natasha again, this time for being the first female leader of the People's Action Movement. And Natasha did it in grand style. Ever since she came on the landscape, you know, Natasha has been working. Natasha has a young baby, and I remember on the campaign trail they call the baby campaign because she did it while pregnant. And so I just want to commend Natasha. I mean, it's a bold step, but you have that fire in you. Go out there and fight. We can be on different sides of the platform politically, Mr. Manners. And in this case, we are on two different islands. Our parties don't necessarily oppose each other, definitely in the Nevis Island Assembly elections. But even if that were the case, as long as I see someone who wants to work, who's passionate about what they want to do, I have no problem offering congratulations. And to see Natasha, a young woman, a fighter, somebody who's, you know, beating the odds, I love that she's doing it her way. She's doing it her way. It doesn't have to be the traditional way. Who says that women can't have children? Who says that you can't still have a family? Whatever you want to do, as long as you have that passion inside you to move forward, I love that. Because, I mean, there's nothing normal about me, Mr. Manners. I mean, it's just me, you know. So wherever I find people who are true in themselves and they are not afraid to put that out there and people can embrace them, I support that 100%.
Now, I think that decision, or Natasha Gray Brooks, she's going to be confirmed at what I think is the 59th convention of the People's Action Movement. And of course, they're going on 6 decades since they were formed in 1965.
Imagine that.
And she will become their 5th leader, of course, following in the footsteps of Dr. William Valentine Herbert of blessed memory, Sir Kennedy Simmons, first Prime Minister, Lindsey Grant, Dr. Sean Richards, who recently graduated from our alma mater with his doctorate, and now first female, Shani Gray Brooks. As a female yourself, how has women involvement shifted the political landscape in the Federation?
Mr. Manners, it's good to see us getting a seat at the decision-making table, because for years women have been the ones in the background really holding things together. We have been the ones canvassing, encouraging people to vote, mobilizing the voters. We have done it. We've organized the events. We've ensured that they flowed. We've even kept governments together. But we were doing all of that from on the outside. Now we are at the decision-making table. We don't need to pass a note to you to tell you, say this for us when we get in there. Slowly but surely, bit by bit, we are taking up space. We are establishing our seats at the table, the decision-making table. Yes, we've had women being appointed, nominated, but now we are seeing women being elected, women getting involved in elective politics, and I think that is really important. Here on the island of Nevis, we have our party leader, the Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, and I mean, she did it as the first in St. Kitts and Nevis, and now we are seeing Natasha Gray Shani over on St. Kitts. It is something that I feel particularly proud about, and like I said earlier, even if we are not on the same side in terms of our political affiliation, at the end of the day, if we are about moving people forward, making people's lives better, and ensuring that women and children are front and center in the decision-making process, I am all for it, Mr. Manners. Now, it's important for me to say, I don't want people to just vote for us because we are women. That's not the message. We are saying for far too long we've not had that voice directly at the decision making table. And so now we recognize that we are slowly but surely establishing and sounding our voices. I have to support it. Sometimes people feel like you're saying, oh, vote for her because she's a woman, or don't talk about her because she's a woman. That's not, we're focusing on issues, not personalities. But women need to be at the decision making table. Women are the ones running the homes. We are the ones raising the children. We are the ones ensuring to a large extent the children and the family success. So if we are able to do that and do it in such grand style, why can't we then be elevated to a level where we can do it benefiting more people, and in this case the electorate?
Okay. You mentioned earlier about the homicide that we had in the heart of your constituency and the grief which has been brought there, and then of course of her neighbor who is ill and
Yes.
is in need of treatment. Of course, she works up at the Clark's One Stop in Gingerland, and I've been missing her for a while. So
Yeah,
friendly,
She hasn't worked
always
for a while.
been ready to share a joke and to share a comment to everybody who comes in. Now, talk a little bit more about what that means for Nevis, for that community, because prior to that, Nevis had been calm. We're in the 6th month now, and relative calm. There'd been no homicides, compared to 12, 13 on the Sister Isle. So we have to commend ourselves, a little tap on the back for how we have held things together, the police for staying on top of things, and then of course on March 24th, the relative peace of Hamilton was shattered. And of course there were a couple incidents before that. How are people coping? Things getting back to normal? And what does the loss of somebody like Darlene, the very name suggests that she's a very charming person. I know her well. What does that mean for a society?
Mr. Manners, I have a slightly different view regarding Nevis being calm. I believe, I agree with you, and it's a fact that Nevis, prior to Darlene's murder, Darlene's homicide, had not had any murders for the year, any homicides for the year. But I don't necessarily think that Nevis has been calm. We've not had any homicides. We had not had any homicides. That doesn't mean that we've been calm, because right in Hamilton we had 2 prior shootings in a matter of weeks, or maybe a month, you know. And so I don't consider that calm. Maybe persons slipped away, but we're not calm. And I mean, I'm speaking of Hamilton, but we've had other little incidents here and there, and that's not good. That's not good. And we shouldn't only be in an uproar when a life is lost. But in this particular case, it pains me. And I don't know that things will ever really get back to normal. I am hurt by this, because Darlene didn't deserve this. And, my heart pains. And let me pause here to say to the family of her son, Gerondo, who we call Rondo, I know you are awesome. His family on his mother's side and his father's side, awesome families. They love him with everything. And so I know that they'll take very good care of him. I'm confident of that. But guess what? Nobody will love him like Darlene. Nobody will love him like Darlene. She loved her son dearly. And that's it means she won't be here anymore. Gerondo's birthday is coming up. Darlene won't be here to celebrate with him. It's sad. It's really, really sad. And we can't forget the fact that her brother was also injured in the incident. And so that too is a sad situation. And anybody who knows Nana and Darlene, or who, you see, we have to talk in the past tense now, know that they're very close. Very close. And sometimes they would joke about being twins because they look so much alike. So much alike is crazy. But, I know he can't be feeling good where he is, because that's his heart. That's his sister. So it's sad. And for Omel, I don't even know what to say, Mr. Manners. I don't even know what to say. It's just not a good feeling. However, we have to do better. We can't keep this eye for an eye. You get me, I get you. Everybody turn a blind eye. And the thing about it is, there are people who know what's going on and they just stay silent. And maybe they are staying silent out of fear, and that's not good. That's not good that they are so fearful that they have to stay silent. And there are some who may be staying silent because they just don't want to get involved. That's still not good. And if you are someone in authority and you're in a position to make a change, to help, and and you are turning a blind eye, that's still not good. Another thing I look at very often is the ripple effect, Mr. Manners. Because these kinds of things create rifts in families and they turn people into enemies. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Whomever murdered Darlene, whomever the person or persons were, because I saw a release saying, 2 persons, and then I saw something else saying 1 person was charged. So whatever, I wasn't there, I don't know the circumstance, but the point is, whoever is responsible for Darlene's death did that either on their own or with someone else or some other people, but that's restricted to them. This is the point I'm making, and follow me for a second. It does not mean that somebody else should have to pay. So let's bring it closer to home. If God forbid my uncle takes someone's life and you and I normally get along, you recognize how that could be a very uncomfortable situation, Mr. Manners.
Exactly.
And these are the kind of things I look at. The dead is gone. The dead is gone, whether we want to accept it or not. The dead is gone, they're not coming back. We are the ones who remain, who have to live with the consequences. And many times people end up living with consequences for actions that they didn't commit. And it's not fair. It's not fair. And so I am saying to people who are involved in delinquent and criminal behavior, if nothing else, think on these things. Think on these things. The people who are left behind to live in very uncomfortable situations, Mr. Manners. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling. And sometimes you're afraid to even say anything to anyone because you don't know where anybody will size you up, or how anybody will size you up, and how they will classify you. It's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling, and we have to do better. 13 homicides in St. Kitts and Nevis, that's not good.
Well, you said we have to do better. Every time there's a homicide, there's an uproar.
Yes.
The politicians come to the radio and television and they tell you it's everybody's business, etc. That it's our sons and our daughters and our nieces and nephews. Are we in society doing enough for early intervention?
I don't think we're doing enough for early intervention at this point in time, but it's not that I'm thinking that it can't happen. Okay? And that's just me being realistic about it. I think some of the things that need to happen as it relates to early intervention, and emphasis on the word early, is that we have to reach people not when their minds have already been conditioned and made up and they've decided this is the direction that they want to go. Think about it. This current batch of criminals, let's call it what it is, they are, for the most part, maybe like late teens and maybe even up to maybe, let's say, your 40s, right? And so had we had early intervention and continued with our initiatives, we may not have had this problem that we are having.
Well, you said had we. Is that intervention in the family, in our schools, at the governmental level?
It's at all levels, Mr. Manners, and let me tell you how. Let's start with at the governmental level or even the community level. Mr. Manners, some of the things I think can help with early intervention, believe it or not, are so basic. For example, when you have skills training in the communities, when you use the community centers for the purposes that they were created, not just to have a party or wedding ceremony or wedding reception, but to have actual community type events to build a community. When we do parenting sessions, because remember, parenting does not come with a handbook. You know, my daughter is 11 and I am still learning every day. And sometimes when I do things, I say, boy, okay, let me see how I could deal with it a little bit differently next time, because you are still learning. There's no handbook, you know. So parenting sessions, even when we have homework assistance, these are things that make people feel that they are part of, that they are cared for. People care about them. People care about where they end up. That's the reality of it. And that is when I'm talking about the community and the government level. So that is how the community and government can play its part in terms of early intervention. With the families, let's be real. You could have two children, same mother, same father, grow up in the same household, and they turn out completely different. That's just the reality. I know that. I know that. I've seen that many times. But what do? As a parent, as an aunt, as an uncle, you can't just throw your hands up in the air and say, I give up, or you ought not to. As long as these children are under our care, we have a duty to just continue to try. And so every time they mess up, we have to put them in line, and we have to let them know that their actions have consequences. I think many times as parents, we are worried about what society is going to say, how society is going to feel. You see, me, I couldn't care less, Mr. Manners. I couldn't care less about how society feels when I take a matter into my own hands when it comes to discipline children. Mine. You know why? Because at the end of the day, when they do bad, people are directly going to point their fingers at the parent. They're going to point their fingers at the parents. They didn't do this, they didn't do that. So I make no apologies, and sometimes I have to tell people, it's okay. You stay with your opinion and let me parent. Because at the end of the day, I am trying to make sure that I raise children that don't end up in HMP, or that I have to bury. And so as parents, as families, aunts, uncles, godparents, we have that role to play as well. And I find that we continue to raise up the boys differently to how we raise up the girls. With the girls, it's like we just want to make sure that they don't get pregnant. We want to make sure they don't get pregnant, and so we put these rules on the girls. But then I see the boys, they're going to dances when they're still in high school, you know, and they're doing all sorts of things. They're doing things that you, the parents, know, and you say nothing about, but you wouldn't dare let the girls do that. And so we have that role to play as well. So yes, it's government and community, but it's also the family, Mr. Manners. It's everybody's business. And then this thing about not wanting anybody to speak to your child, that again is an issue. Some of our children well need speaking to. And I maintain that as long as you are not harming the child, do not let a child do something wrong and you not pull them up. They need to know that the actions have consequences. And I'm not saying in every case you have to use corporal punishment, but at the end of the day, they have to know that there are consequences to their actions. So if it means punishing them in other ways, fine. But a lot of us aren't doing all we can. That's the reality. We aren't doing all we can.
Is the police doing all they can? I'll expand on that. Since the incident on March 24th, Friday night it was, maybe I've missed it, but I haven't heard the police on Nevis doing a walkthrough. Have they gone into the community and have a town hall meeting? And on the federal level, because I find the reaction of the police is often delayed. For instance, on May 9th, they introduced the gun amnesty. The very night they announced it, I think there were 3 shootings in Pricklepear Alley in St. Kitts. That finished the day after Darling was gunned down. Maybe I've missed it, but have you heard a report saying how many guns were taken off of the street?
I haven't heard that. The last time I heard any reference to it on the news, the amnesty period had not yet ended. And so the reporter said that they were told that they would get an update at the end of the period. That was the last time I heard.
And that's the 25th, which means there has been about 9 days since.
I personally haven't heard.
How many days does it take for the commissioner of police to come and tell the nation?
We got 1, we got 0, we got,
So I find there is often a very delayed reaction, and we wait until the next round of violence comes.
Yes. You see, I don't like to lump people into one category. So, to say the police, sometimes
it's
there's
the body.
some.
It's the body.
That's true. There are some who are really working. But the reality is, and we're going to call a spade tonight, the reality is, we place a lot of emphasis on certain things and we ignore the serious things. Let me tell you something, right? And I'm not above the law. Laws go for everybody. But when I see the attention that the police put into me and tint on my vehicle, I was stunned. I was stunned. I remember it was my daughter's birthday when the police stopped me, and they were stopping other people, so they happened to stop me, and they stopped me for tint. And I said, okay, I was being cooperative and whatever. And it's like, I don't know if you expected a different response, but I was rather taken aback. And they got annoyed, in my opinion, because when one came over and he said something about she. And I said, excuse me, because when he took my license, he said, oh, J.D. Keynes, the politician, right? But then in referring to me, to his colleague, he said she. And I checked him. I said, excuse you, who you calling she? And he let me to know, oh, that is how they refer to people where he's from. I said, don't play with me because you just, I was highly offended, miss. I don't like those things. But anyway, I'm not above the law. So if I did something wrong, fine. But and that was one time. But they've come at me since that. I end up saying, you know what, JD? Just do what they say. Just do what they say. I did what they said. But when I see these other things, and sometimes I just see the police and the criminals, they dapsing, them are best friends, them, everybody hanging out, everybody are friends. But with you, they treat you like, and I'm like, but what craziness is this? So some of them have some blame. Some of them have some blame, even something, I don't know if I said it here. I remember I got my very first traffic ticket the other day. And I accept it because I did park in a spot that I should not have been parked. But when I see how the officer went on with me and took my picture and all kind of thing, I was stunned, Mr. Manners. I had to tell him, I say, hey, take your picture of my vehicle, not of me, not of me, when I tell you the aggression, but I say, as we say, locally, time longer than twice, so you just leave them alone. But to get back on topic though, the point I'm trying to make is that at the end of the day, a lot of people know what's happening and we just turn a blind eye. So they're not doing enough. They are not doing enough, right? And it does not make a citizen like me, who is very law-abiding, don't want to get in trouble. I stay far from these things. It don't make me feel good. And it doesn't make me feel safe. And the thing about it is your children are sitting back and looking on, and they're starting to grow up feeling like they can't trust the police. That is what they're feeling. And it's not a good feeling for me as a parent. It's a scary world, and we have to do better. We have to do better, Mr. Manners.
No, it's all hands on deck. But the buck stops with the leaders of our country, the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, the Premier of Nevis. We elected them to keep us safe. Are they doing enough? I continually get baffled when I hear say about gun amnesty, which 9 days after they can't tell you how it worked. And Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge mentioned that the last time she was here. The guns are not manufactured in St. Kitts Nevis. Are they doing enough, along with the American government, for instance, where the guns are coming from, to stop the guns coming in, to be involved in intervention? I, for instance, can't understand, if the United States wants to help us, how Nevis can't get a Coast Guard base. Because if you have a house and your front door is guarded but your back door open,
It's open, yeah.
the intruders will come.
I remember when I lived on St. Kitts, there was a big talk about how comfortably some customs officers were living. It was a talk, Mr. Manners, and it led to rumors going around and who's taking that kind of thing, and who's changing the vehicles. Mr. Manners, it was a big thing, and my eyes opened because people spoke with confidence about it, like they knew that this is what was happening. And I mean, like I tell you, I was stunned. I was really stunned, and I'm saying to myself, but if that is the case, we're in some serious trouble, because who's guarding the guard? Also, I can speak for situations with me. It's the little things that turn into big things. I live in an area, and I've said so publicly, I have documents to prove that I have written on the advice of the police, written to the Premier, right? Asking the Premier to maintain an area that belongs to the government, that had become so grossly overgrown, and the area is poorly lit. I pointed out a situation that happened there in the area before, and said, in order to avoid any similar occurrence, this is what I am recommending. And the Premier wrote back to me. He actually wrote back to me and tell me, no, he gonna wait and the police to tell he that he got to do it. The Premier wrote to me and tell me he will wait and the police to tell him that he need to clean the government property, Mr. Manners.
So you're not a citizen.
Exactly. And then, as luck would have it or not have it, a couple of days before the election, a vehicle that was operating for the government at the time, so it was a private vehicle, but they were working for the government. They drove in my area, and whatever impact, whatever happened, 90% of my wall caved in, my fence caved in, and it fell into my yard, and part of my neighbors as well fell into my yard. And because of where I live and the narrowness of the road, they had to do something immediately because it was a serious hazard. Anyway, the people came, and I ended up leaving my mother. I told my mother to come and deal with them because I was so mad. I was so mad. Anyway, they came, and my mother was dealing with them and whatever, and they complained, Lord, why out here so dark? And over here so overgrown. They saw everything I had been complaining about. They saw it all. Because even the lights that I have, the extra lights that I have, still wasn't sufficient, right? And so they were complaining. And one of them, on his own, decided, no. We talked to him and we said, well, tell them clean the thing. He said, oh, I can do it myself. Right? He really didn't care. And I'm so grateful to him to this day. And he came and he did it. But guess what? It don't go back up because that was just one time. And they refused to maintain it. Mr. Manners, anybody would say, when I moved to where I am now, there was no light. And it was somebody pass and see, and they made the call to Nevlek and said, no. Right? Because people saw what I saw. And even now with lights, and I've put up extra lights, and I have security cameras and stuff, but I had to do all of that on my own. I had to do all of that on my when the property is the government's property, and all I asked was for the government. I'm not making it about me. I'm just speaking because I know, I can attest to how our government operates. They feel like, I mean, to hell with you. Excuse my French. They didn't care that I have children living in the home and other people live in the area. It's like, to hell with you all. And that, so really and truly, to answer your question, no, they're not doing enough. We are politicizing everything. We don't think about the long run. I mean, we have an outcry when there is a murder, and then we go silent, and then God forbid another murder, nothing. I mean, then we make noise again, and then that's it. Today would have been, I don't remember how old, I think would have been maybe the 27th or 28th birthday of Javon Grant. who was gone. He was the first homicide last year. I know Javon personally. He was the brother of my best friend, Renee Wilkinson. And I know to this day that family doesn't feel good. They don't feel good. The first thing I did this morning when I got up, I messaged Renee and I said, sending hugs today. I didn't have to say why. Because I know it's not a good day for her. You know? And what happened? We talk about it. We had an outcry. Javon got a young child, Lord, the poor child. And that's it. It's like you don't even remember that Javon died. And people are supposed to move on. Darling is dead. We have an uproar. And then what?
18 minutes after 9, you're listening to an impassioned J.D. Keynes, caretaker for Nevis 1. We're going to take a break in a moment. You've been very quiet on the outside. You can join us 669-7312, 766-7312, and on the landline 469-7953. JD, when we come back, we'll talk about the NRP Town Hall meeting.
Yes.
And, of course, the march.
Yes.
We'll take a break and be right back.
Your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
Yes, this is where political discourse in the Federation reaches its apex. So, JD, the members of the NRP went to the St. Thomas's Community Center. And last Friday, of course, there was a march. Fill us in on those.
Yes, Mr. Manas, before I get to that, someone was just reminding me, and they're so correct, that Mexico just elected its first female leader as well.
Yep.
I mean, we're really taking up space. We're really doing things, and
You said taking up space.
We're really doing things. We're really sitting at the decision-making table.
You're making space count.
You're making space count, yes. Last week, I think it was Tuesday. Yes.
Yeah, it was the day after we were here. Yeah.
Yes, the NRP hosted a town hall in Cotton Ground at the Cotton Ground Community Center. Unfortunately, we were unable to bring it live. However,
okay,
it's in a call.
We've got a caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP.
Good night, Steve.
Hi, good night.
And good night, Miss Ken.
Good night.
Miss Ken, we in that state want to know if it's around your property didn't lighted.
So
you got the gist of it?
yeah, they asked if it's only around my property
We
wasn't
want
lighted.
to know if the security with the light, if it's something deliberately done by the vagabond people over there who run Nevis.
So
And it appear to us it's deliberate because he's a politician. And a warning all them police, you know. A warning all them police. Any petition division, Jetty, they sound like they're from St. Nevis or it's foreign police. Because this is how they are working, politicians. They get in these foreign police head to play around MPs. Pretending MPs, potential MPs. So we want to know if it's something deliberately coming from them with the dirty politics. Them politics don't go on it back, and then coming back here, you know. Otherwise, have a good night.
have a good night. I definitely felt the passion in that person's voice. Well, I told you that the premier wrote back to me. They actually wrote back to me and told me they are not going to do it until the police tell them to do it. They are waiting an instruction from the police. Imagine, I need the police to tell me clean my property. I don't see that the area is dark. And Mr. Manners, you know, it is very dark. And I didn't realize over there was so heavily trafficked. People walk there, people drive there. It needs lights. And the least you can do is at least clean the area. Listen, I've been there now since 2021. Yeah, the latter part of 2021. And nothing.
Nada.
Nothing, Mr. Manners. You know, so I don't expect that soon. I spent my money and I got my security system, but I mean, It shouldn't just be for me alone.
Okay, we've got another caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP.
Good evening, Steve. Good evening to Jerry.
Good evening.
Yes, Steve, in terms of crime, these criminal activities that are going on. Now, let me tell you, the gun amnesty set up before, and you see what happened. They bought newer and better guns, and maybe guns that was never used. So even if they were ballistic, we don't know. All right, now, number one. Number two, Steve, you know, from we were growing up, you used to hear about this amnesty. And I was trying to allude to that to the town hall meeting. You know, you have people who go around amnesty. The politicians do amnesty to count the people in the country. You know what that is about. The politician would go house to house to get elected. And they go house to house with their plans and they tell the people, look, this is our plans. The people vote them in according to their plans. So they get in office. And all the plans, they forget about them. So you telling me, you're going house to house to get elected. Now you know that people are killing people in various areas. And you're going on a radio to talk to these guys. These brothers ain't listening to radio. I could bet that. Well, you only listen to the guy song name. We used to listen to Bonnie Wailer them. I mean, you know, Cool Runnings and them. These man guys song they sing, walk cock up this like a dog. You can't get nothing from them song there. You understand? This music they played are messing up the brain and they are not listening to radio. So any politician who wants to talk to the people, you got to go back house to house. The same way you go house to house to get the vote, go back in the house, talk to them, find out what they can do and what you can do for them. And yes, it is a fact that St. Kitts Nevis people are not working anymore. We are waiting and hands out, and the government is not helping us. You got certain people on the PEP for the government, and the small business people that are suffering, want a PEP worker, can't get it. These things are criminal activities. You must cause crime. You come on, go in the communities, the different communities, and if they were going house to house and village to village, they would have known that the people in the community not working, they are not registered workers. And every month you hear a press conference and you will hear, oh, you have this amount of people registered. So, really so much people registered, but I'm telling you, people not just left school, people don't leave school every month. People are coming into work and they are going into the social security system. I am saying our people are not in the workplace, Steve. And our people are watching people elevating themselves, and our people, along with their people, are causing criminal activities. We can't get away from it. Politicians need to come in the community. Steve, me could speak like that, they kill my brother. I could tell you this crime thing ain't no easy thing. And JD made a point earlier. You can't get over these things, you can't get over every time somebody gets shot. The womb in you open. You know? Let me tell you something, it's not easy. Steve, every time you go into me face a little hardship, you hear me talk about small business. You think I'm just talking about small business? It's the pressure because me not have to run no shop. I got my garage that I'm working at. But my mother left a legacy and I said, let me carry on. My brother was doing that. Me don't move away from that. No, me got to back in and me do things. I mean, that I, resent because I like to serve people. But the politicians don't have to help us more. Look, all the time I tell you, help us to help us.
Yeah.
Nobody help us. Next thing you hear, the government got these people got the government going court. In a brother tell you the parliament got the biggest land in the land. That man come from somewhere. We give the man all our money.
Everything.
And now the man that take the government to court. And we people, we small business people in Nevis, can't get no still a suffer. The tongue are brightening up. The government projects are brightening up. But when you look on the people, so when the culture of my people come in, the influx of culture of my people, and I look on the community. Fountain got a road, the man tackle me today. Boy, what Fountain road looks up? And you know me not fix the road. Steve, let me say this here. Every man who come Fountain, trust me, and sit by the bar, offer them a drink. Because for a man to leave Gingerland and St. Kitts to come Fountain, to me, he really want to come. And I give them a complimentary drink. Ask anybody. Trust me. We got to do better for we people, man. The black people in one black country. You got to go call Jeffrey Hanley if you want a prep worker. What stupid is that there? And you got people in the office. That's not nice.
Yeah.
We don't feel good about these things. So all these things are criminal activities. These are crimes. I mean, you're going to tell me you're going to give a man money to sit down. Sit down. What do you think you're going to do? Day before I work for, they got money. I know money coming in mountain. Me not got no bills to pay. Me going to do this. A man got a gun out there, me want a better one. Come on. And you give criminal money and the victim and the family suffer. What is that? Come on, man. What is that?
I hear you.
And when you look at it, Steve. Electricity. The other day, a man came by me and he said, "Man, you know I'm home about electricity." He said, "Pan, let you up." He come there when he will go up. But Steve, we're not going to atmosphere in the country. But you don't get money from up at this. The atmosphere, you come ask everybody, and you see, maybe they're right too. Because the business people in the country, they're not borrow, they're not call, they're not say, hey, listen,
stand together.
You're right. And you know what they do? They give every caller, every businessman something, except the people who call. So you're going to hear them say, but I can't, but you're not get to. But we must get to because I got share bread. But say something.
Yeah, we got to stand together.
Tell me they only sell $60 for the day. They only sell $60 for the day. Me got to throw away food. I mean, come on, Steve, I don't know what to sell. But drinks.
Yep.
We need better punimis. And let me tell you, I am saying, and I always advocate, once the government in power, you get in power to serve the people. If you don't serve the people, you are creating crime. And that's how it goes. Talk all night.
I know. Well, thank you, caller. We hear you.
You know, Mr. Manners, that call was full of passion. Full of passion. I mean, he touched on several different topics, but he brought it all home. It came down to, the inability of the government to perform. The government has not been performing. Yes, it is true that no single government has all the answers. But you see, when they were out there on the campaign trail, that's what they said, that they had the answers. They will do this. I remember that Undermark show, in my opinion, was created with one purpose, and that was to get the NRP out of government, Religiously and relentlessly, Mr. Manners. I mean, they spoke about any and everything. And now when we talk, we're fighting down the government. When we talk, we got a problem. We put in politics in everything. This is madness. Madness. I mean, Nevis has become a very expensive place to live. A very expensive place to live. The caller mentioned inflation. I mean, talking about how the water rates and the electricity rates. Mr. Manners, it is crazy. It is crazy. I don't understand what is happening in Nevis, and at the end of the day, people want the money. People want the money. Every morning on Van Radio, I hear the notice about which area will be disconnected this week. Which area will be disconnected this week. That's what they're saying. But the reality is some people have to choose between paying the electricity bill and buying bread. That is the reality. It's not everybody got bad mind. It's not everybody got bad mind. But that is the reality of the situation. And it can't be that we don't know. Because as the caller said, we went to these people's homes. We weren't afraid or ashamed to sit down in the house and sit down by the door and take picture with them. Because we wanted to prove that we were about the people, that we are for them. You see, me, a lot of things I do, I don't capture. Sometimes I don't even remember to take the picture, to be honest. Sometimes I don't even remember. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to just be there for them, be there for people. Sometimes people get vexed with me because, let's say somebody dies and they want you to be the first one there. Because, listen, I know myself, Mr. Manners. And sometimes I want a minute or two. That's the reality. I'm not saying I don't want you to come around me. I do. But sometimes I want a minute or two. And I like to give people space. Whether I come to you right after or I come a day later, my intentions are genuine. And if you want to vex with me for that, that is your business. We have bigger fish to fry. We need to get these guns away from the criminals. We need to get the guns away from the criminals and the knives and whatever else. We are creating monsters. We are creating monsters, and some of us are so caught up in everything and what everybody else is doing that right under our noses things are happening and we can't say anything. Guys, we are creating monsters, and it's going to continue, because I am going to say, oh, you did this to somebody for me, I am going to do this, and that is really not the right way. That is not the right way, but people are hurting. People are hurting. Do we have counseling for these children?
Hold your thought for a minute. We've got another caller on the line. Good evening, caller.
I'm still
Hi.
jam down again. Miss Keynes,
Yes.
you called her before. He touched on several things that is very important between St. Kitts and Nevis.
Mm-hmm.
He touched on the music, the type of music. Besides Sister C, some of these DJs need to come off the radio. The nonsense music they play, causing all these things with the youth them. We have to go out there and deal with this gun business in St. Kitts Nevis. Very seriously. We have to do it. And it's not pussyfoot around it. We got to deal with it. We got to work community town hall meeting with these young boys and let them know what they're doing to their own self. You elders, they ain't come up, sir. Steve, we ain't come up the way. This is important in the country, and we don't wipe it out, you know. And I believe in, once you hold the gun, you study it till you tell us how you get the gun. That is what's supposed to be happening. This is jam down talking. I don't back down, you know. It's from Orange Town. I know how these things go. I'm from Federal Maple and Federal Palm. I see it long time ago. I never believe it could have happened in my country. I think it's Nevis. It's a shame and a lot of you youngsters. Have a good night, Steve.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Passion. I mean, he's on the ball. Mr. Manners, I think there are some people who, they are quiet, not because they're not fed up, but it's almost as if it's like, boy, this is happening so fast and so often now that it's the norm. And that's sad, eh? I mean, the reality is, like anything else, things will evolve, things will change. And no disrespect to anyone who has made Nevis their home, but just like in a country, an overseas country, when you have people coming in, you know, you're opening up to different cultures and different lifestyles. So these things will happen in terms of people mixing. But generally, we as a people know right from wrong. Whether you're from Nevis, Trinidad, Dominica, Guyana, you know right from wrong. And at the end of the day, all of us will suffer. So we each have to say enough is enough, and we are not going to be a part of this. Who feels comfortable knowing that they have children and nieces and nephews and grandchildren coming up in this world? You have to be so careful. You are afraid that your child you send your child to the shop and they end up get a stray bullet. That's the reality.
Scary.
Remember right there on Happy Hill Drive where a young lady Jeep went. Young lady Jeep went missing. Somebody jump in the girl Jeep and drive along with the girl Jeep. I mean, these are the things that are happening in Nevis. This can't be right. It can't be right. You know, but Mr. Manners, we definitely got to do better. So at the town hall that was held last Tuesday, crime was one of the things that came up. And I used the opportunity to ask people to help me observe a moment of silence for the bereaved. We spoke about crime and violence. We spoke about antisocial behavior. And I did touch on some of these programs that I think can come in place, can come back in terms of early intervention, to try to steer people away from a life of crime, from a life of violence. So that was one of the things that came up at the town hall. We also spoke about education and training. And I, in my presentation on education and training, sought to tie it back to that. We are an educated people. People who are so focused, they don't have time for certain things. People who are trained in skills, they're making money, they got money in their pocket, they're not going to have time to rob me and you. So those are some of the things that came up. We talked about being progressive, because at the end of the day, the programs and policies that take effect now may not benefit the people right now, but they will benefit the people down the line. And that is how you have to think. So consider for a moment, if the NRP, when in government from 2006 to 2013, was able to still be in government and have the programs that it started, maybe we would not be in the situation that we are today. Mind you, I'm not saying that NRP had all the answers. We didn't. They didn't. But at the end of the day, there were programs in place to try to tackle these kind of things. So maybe this generation would have been spared, and the one that's coming up. That's what I'm saying. Additionally, we spoke about healthcare. I think it was Dr. Bartlett who expounded on healthcare. We spoke about our social programs. We spoke about the rise in the cost of living. So the electricity rates and the water rates and that sort of thing. All of these are topics that were touched on. And we gave people an opportunity to speak to us, because we didn't want to just speak to you and tell you this is what we want, this is what they're not doing. We gave people an opportunity to speak to us, and we got some good questions and comments. I mean, there was one person, one person in particular who was asking, what is the NRP doing? They acknowledged that the CCM wasn't doing anything, but they asked, what is the NRP doing to ensure that we are successful the next time around and stuff. And I know for some people, it's a question that creates some pain, and you get annoyed because you're saying, if you think that the CCM isn't doing anything, isn't that enough to give the NRP a chance? I have a similar view. However, we have to respect that that is what people think. That is what people think. That is their grievance, and so we just have to meet them where they are. And so that was one of the things that we had to consider. Not just because CCM is not doing a good job means that people are just going to automatically give it to us. I would have automatically given to anybody else other than them, because I feel like they're not performing. But that's not how everybody thinks, and you have to respect and appreciate that we are all different in our thinking. So that came up as well. But generally, in terms of the content, very good information at that town hall, and I'm hoping that we can have more of these. But guess what? Even as I segue from the town hall to the march, I want to let people know these things are not for us. They are for you. And you are getting these opportunities and you're not taking advantage of them. You want to inbox me and tell me this and tell me that. Come and talk to other people. Let other people hear what's going on. Because if they hear it from me, they might think I just looking votes. But if they hear it from you, they're going to say, wow, that person is going through exactly what I'm going through. The caller spoke about it in terms of the small businessmen standing together. We got to stand together. And so, while we have people coming out, we don't have the numbers that we want. They don't reflect what is happening on the ground. And I can say that confidently, because our inboxes and our inboxes are full. Our telephones continue to ring. Every minute somebody has an issue. Somebody is struggling. And guess what? Me I struggle too. I am struggling too, because I live in the same Nevis. I live in the same Nevis that you live in. Don't think that when you automatically become a politician that there's an influx of cash. No. I have mortgage to pay and children to feed. But the reality is, you still, even in your difficult situation, still try to find people. Mr. Manners, you know how many times I have to go in my cupboard to take down things to give people to eat? Many times. But then I still got to look for things for me and the kids to eat. But many times, because you realize, boy, as bad as you think you have it, somebody has it worse.
Yes, definitely.
And that's the reality of Nevis. So when we put on these things, you got to participate. Is you the far?
It's called people power.
You see, right now, I don't even got to go to the supermarket if I don't want to. For me, go for the children, yeah, but for me, no, because it's mango season. All I want is mango and water. Mango and water, and I'm good. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner, mango and water. But the reality is, people are struggling. people are struggling and we're not coming out, we're not unifying our voices. We want to be quiet. You know? We want to be quiet, and then in some cases we want to criticize who all didn't go. But where were you? Why you didn't go? Why you didn't participate? So the town hall was held at the Cotton Ground Community Center on Tuesday. Then on Friday, we finally got word, I think maybe Wednesday or Thursday, that, you know, the march was approved. And so on Friday, we took to the streets to protest. It was a very peaceful protest dubbed Save Nevis. And the march really was to stand up together against the increase in the cost of living, the increased tariffs on electricity. And we also spoke about the unnecessary spending and the overspending of the current administration. The bread and butter issues, Mr. Manners. These are the kind of things that we marched for and against. And I wasn't physically there because it's a Friday. It's the end of the month. I mean, the reality is I have to work. I have to work. I do not work for myself. So I couldn't physically be there, but I tried my best to advertise it and promote it, as, you know, using the platforms that were available to me. But to those who were able to capitalize on it and those who participated, I say thank you. Thank you. Because you could have done like others and stayed on the side, but you didn't. You stood for something. And that means a lot. So thank you very much for that. And guess what? If down the road somebody else can't make it, because there's so much of us, you wouldn't even realize. We have to stand together. So that was the talk. Yes? You were going to say something?
Well, you're not done on that.
Oh, so I was saying that was the town hall on the Tuesday and then the protest on the Friday. You know, and of course we continue to come here on a weekly basis to talk to you. I mean, these things are just additions. These are just top up to what's going on. We all live in Nevis. I don't know why sometimes we act like we don't live in Nevis and we don't know what's going on. We act like we don't know what's going on. But you want the NRP to talk about it. You're calling on the NRP to talk about the matters that are paining. Are you calling on CCM to stop the foolishness and stop paining us? We're not doing that. I mean, come on, it's like you want NRP to govern from opposition. And we are happy that you have that confidence in us. But the same way you put pressure on us, put pressure on the government, because they are not performing. Not one of them in there performing. Not one of them in there performing. And you see that cultural complex, and you know, I love my Culturama, and trust me, listen, I go into all the Culturama events as long as I'm able to. I love Culturama, and I am in favor of anything to make Nevis Culturama better. But at the end of the day, I believe that it comes down to dollars and cents, and it must make sense. It must make sense. SENSE and CENTS. It must. And for us to spend that large sum just a couple of years ago to expand the village, the cultural village, and now spend an even larger sum, I have a problem with that, Mr. Manners.
To host 6 or 7 events for Culturama.
I have a problem with that.
And then it goes to sleep until next year.
I mean, look at that structure up in Gingerland. Beautiful structure. But what? How often do we use it? I maintain that outside of Gingerama or any event for that purpose, that up there could have been utilized for so many different things. A nice place.
Well, it's supposed to be a center of excellence.
It's supposed to be a center of excellence. So why aren't we showcasing the excellent people of Gingerland? The excellent people of Gingerland who have helped to build, make Nevis where it is and put Nevis on the map. That is crazy to me. Same thing with the cultural complex and the cultural village. I don't like these things. Do not get me wrong. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I contribute to Culturama every year. I don't know what I haven't done yet. I was a contestant. I was a chaperone. I was chairperson for committees. I was regular committee member, judge, everything. I do a troop, everything I've touched because I love it. I love culture. You know, and of course, because I love Culturama, but it must make dollars and cents, because at the end of the day, God forbid, and I'm not calling it, but God forbid our people take ill, where we gonna send them, where we gonna put them? The influx of people, we gonna turn the village
into a hospital.
It's crazy.
The village will be the auxiliary wing of the Alexandra Hospital. So Culturama is 53 days off. When you were last here, you said we're having an NRP summer. Fill us in on the events which we can look forward to.
So on July 27th, it was supposed to be July 21st, but the date has since been changed. So July 27th, we'll have Grown and Groovy. So what this is a dance that's catered to the mature. Persons who want to go out and have good, clean fun, and no little boy, I went up behind you and a Tifa dance. Well, if they want to come, as long as they could behave, we accept that. You know, but grown and groovy. What happens there stays there, good, clean fun. That is what we are doing on the 27th of July. That is the crowd that we are trying to attract. The tickets will be just $50 and they should be on sale shortly. I'm told that we're going to have them at the party headquarters as well as online. So you don't have to wait until you get to Nevis to get your tickets. So you will hear much more about that. That's Grown and Groovy, July 27th. Something for the sophisticated, mature crowd, but who know how to have a good time. July 27th, save that date. On July 27th and 28th, the NRP's Youth Arm will have a domino competition up at Bucko Park. That's at the top of Government Road. And so if you love domino, or if you're just looking for something to do on those 2 days, make your way up to Government Road, Bucko Park, for an exciting domino competition organized by the NRP Youth Arm. Save those dates as well. Then on August 1st, we celebrate our Emancipation Day on the first Monday, but essentially it's August 1st, right? And so on August 1st, we're going to have an NRP meet and greet with Nevisians in the diaspora. So all of you who may be coming home, we want to meet you. We want to meet you. It's not just about politics. We just want to be, we want to see you. I mean, some of you we talk to all the time on social media, but we don't know how each other look. You haven't been home in a while. Come home and make sure that you come to that meet and greet. It's being held in your honor, and that takes place on the 1st of August. Save that date as well. Yes, Adele, they move it from the 21st. Initially, it was supposed to be on the 21st, but in looking at some of the other events and assessing, you know, the target audience and that sort of thing, decided to make that shift. So it's the 27th, but it's still going to be exciting, and tickets are just $50 EC. Don't worry, man, you're making the money in US now, so you could bring your 20 US and we'll give you change. All right. Then we have the all-white brunch on the 4th of August. That is the second annual, organized by the NRP Women's Arm. Last year it was a big hit, and we're expecting this year to be even better. So get your white outfits ready for that one. So it's an NRP summer for, well, now that the Youth Arm has added its domino competition, we have an additional day. But it's going to be all about the NRP. And of course, you still have time to purchase your tickets for that mega raffle that's been organized by the Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge and her team, where you can win $50,000.
Whoa, smackers.
$50,000, and it's open to anyone. So you can live in Nevis, you can live abroad. It's open to any and everyone. The premier can play. I mean, if he wins the $50,000, the money is his. We hope that he do it something for Nevis. But at the end of the day, it's $50,000. I mean, you can't beat that. So it's an NRP summer, Mr. Manners. It's an NRP summer. It's going to be exciting. I expect to be all out this summer. Of course, you know, I have Badai, and I know some parents have been asking. Yes, I'm a bit delayed this year, but hopefully this week the costume should be out. But you can pre-register, so you can save the spot for your children. You can definitely do that, but just stay connected to know about the Badai costumes. This for children. I take them as long as they are potty trained, and we even have a teen section as long as they're potty trained, because I don't want any parents walking in the parade. You can walk on the side, but as long as they're potty trained, I take them. You know, we're gonna have a wonderful time. It's always a good thing. We try as much as possible to keep the costumes, the cost subsidized, and I feed them. You just have to bring bring them in the clothes. You know, I give them the clothes, you provide the accessories and the shoes, and everything else is left up to me. So, you know, this isn't about politics, it's about Culturama. So if you want your children, your nieces, your nephews, whomever, involved in a nice children's troop where they're guaranteed to have fun, contact me for Badai. It's going to be a really, really good one. All right. So those are the events that the NRP has planned for Culturama 50.
We've got just about 8 minutes to get to the top of the hour. Regionally,
Yes.
some changes, CXC and Cape.
I wanted to touch on this just real quickly. I don't know how many of you found out or have learned that CXC recently issued, I wouldn't say a statement, but they wrote to the various ministers of education and said that they are going to make some changes to their syllabus, to their offerings, and they wanted to halt some of the subjects. And I remember agriculture science in terms of the double major being one, and some other skill type subjects. And what I was particularly impressed with, why I brought it up this evening, is that some of our leaders in the region stood up and they said, no, CXC out of place. You're supposed to consult with us before you make that decision. Mind you, and CXC is what the leading education examination body, but they stood up against them. I am yet to hear our minister locally speak to it. So what CXC then decided to do, and I applaud them for doing such, is say, listen, we acted prematurely. This is what we are going to do. We are open to having consultations with you guys before we make a final decision. And so that is what leadership is about. That is what representation is about. I mean, imagine something such as this. We're talking about food security. We're talking about getting people more skilled. And CXC wants to do this. Why not we say, listen, no, CXC, give us an opportunity to go on a recruitment drive. Why not let us try to make these subjects a little bit more attractive so that people can come in? It's the same thing I've been saying for years about nursing and getting more people involved in nursing, particularly community health nursing. We have to go out there and sell it. We realize the people aren't coming to us. We have to go out there and attract them and bring them in, because if not, we are going to be in a dire situation. I remember the last time I went to the hospital to do an ultrasound. Mr. Manas, thank God I know a little bit of Spanish. Mr. Manas, thank God I know a little bit of Spanish. Mr. Manas, we outnumbered, you know? We are outnumbered, and so that is the reality of the situation. So that is something that we definitely have to do. And so I commend our regional leaders who stood up against CXC and said, no, this ought not to happen. I just kind of wish that we had that level of support on the ground here on the island of Nevis, Mr. Manners.
Okay, so we've got just about 5 minutes to go. I know that you wanted to talk about some of the things you promised during the last elections and you're still committed to.
I promised the last time I was here that I don't want to just tell you what's not happening. I want to remind you of some of the things you are missing out on, because I told you on the campaign trail, I told you during house-to-house visits, listen, these are the things I'm committed to. And I still believe that they are relevant. I still believe that they should and can be done. And in the area of social services, because we've been speaking about social services this evening in terms of how we can reach the community, you know, I told you that we were going to have incentives for fathers who honor their commitments. Yes, people may be saying that's their job, but at the end of the day, so many of them aren't. So when we recognize that there are some who are, guess what? We incentivize them and then encourage others to do the same, because at the end of the day, it's about the children. And that is what we want. We want to see more fathers actively involved in their children's lives. And we were saying that these incentives range from housing offers, you know, partnership with the various hardware stores, etc. Additionally, we said that we were going to subsidize lunches for children each month. That's something that was started, and these are the kind of things that we want to see. We also spoke about sponsoring school fees for preschool children. You know, maybe not everybody, but I'm happy to see that the government took the step to offer even some relief. I don't know if it has actually started, but they promised to offer some relief to those in daycare. But guess what? The relief can't go forever. So what is the long-term plan? What is the long-term plan? We need to get these mothers and fathers working so that they can afford to care for their children. Because if they can't afford childcare, that's a problem, eh?
Mm-hmm.
That is a problem. Another thing I'm going to say, and I don't wish it, but I can see it happening. The government preschools, for example, can't carry everybody. They can't, based on the population, the number of children that we have. And, you know, we have an influx. They can't carry everybody in the government preschools, and so there are some private preschools. But a lot of these private preschools, one by one, are going to go under if they don't get some additional help, Mr. Manners. They cannot compete in terms of salaries in some cases. And I have watched at least one private school, preschool lose its staff full speed because they just can't keep up. So we got to look into that. Additionally, we're saying, listen, you see how we have these community centers and we want them to be fit for purpose? I maintain that Charlestown needs the same. Because what is happening in Charlestown cannot continue to happen. One life is one too many. I don't care who you are. You are somebody's child. You are somebody's child. So your life matters. Your life means something. And one life is one too many. And in the area of small business development and entrepreneurship, I told you that we were going to have workshops to boost small businesses. And I'm not just talking about, you help somebody get a business loan and then you leave them. No, we are talking about helping them with the business proposals, the marketing plans, financial planning, and ongoing training for them. Because it is not easy doing business in Nevis. It is not easy being an entrepreneur by extension. We also spoke about a monthly event to boost small businesses in the constituency, where we are saying, hey, if you don't know about them, we are going to help you to learn about them. So every month, we wanted to have something where we are giving the small businesses in the constituency an opportunity to make a little additional set of money, some additional money. Those are the things you are missing out on. You're missing out on them because you stayed home from the polls on election day. You were too afraid to demand change on election day. And that is why you're missing out. You're missing out on these because you sat back and you watched the government do its hanky-panky and you said nothing. You are missing out because you allowed yourself to be bought. You allowed them to come with a little $3,000. And guess what? You have not seen them since, and you're not going to see them again until it's time for another election. So that is why you're missing out. And I'm sorry that you're missing out, because I'm missing out too. I'm missing out too. But at the end of the day, sometimes maybe that's what's happening, Mr. Manners. Maybe we have to suffer in order to get to the right place. And I mean, people don't like to hear it because it's not all of us who didn't do the right thing. But at the end of the day, we have to do better. And so, Mr. Manners, in closing, I just want to remind everyone about these activities that are coming up. And for those of you who tune in late, I want you to please, if you are able, donate to the healthcare expenses of Miss Pearline Powell of Hamilton Estate, Nevis. Pearline has a tumor in her brain that she has to operate on in order to save her life. Her vision has been impaired. I mean, she can see, but not anything near like what she needs to see. And she really needs our help. She's really trying. She's helping herself. But if we can help her, it doesn't matter if it's $5. It could be $5, as I said earlier, or $5,000. Please help. So you can contact me, and I will ensure that the funds go to Pearline. You can also donate to her account at the Bank of Nevis. The number is 182-839. It doesn't matter if you're blue, green, or in between. Let's leave that out of this. When it comes to healthcare, when it comes to helping people, we're not politicizing anything. Okay? We're helping people because it could be anybody. So please, if you can help Pearline, I am begging. Remember, Pearline is the mother of Javancia. Javancia died about a year and a half, 2 years or so ago, and left her children in her mother's care. So please, Pearlie needs to be around. Please help. Please help.
Thank you very much, JD, for being my guest tonight, and I want to thank you for the best wishes at the top of the show on the passing of my sister, Marilyn. We've been a circle of 8, and she's the first who have fallen.
Wow.
We've been extremely privileged. Funerals lend themselves to social cohesion, which I wish will continue on through our society so that it would eliminate crime, for instance.
Correct.
Since the funeral on Friday, we have had so many family get-togethers, family events. The young nieces and nephews went to the waterfall this morning. Even as we speak, they're having a family cohesion event, and they're missing out, but that's okay. But I want to thank everybody for their best wishes. I looked up at the funeral, and there is Vernice Watley Blackett walking in. And I said to myself, look at that. She has her own grief, her own sorrow. But yet she is looking out for my family.
Nice.
Because my sister and her lived on the same street. So we want to encourage everybody to come out on Sunday at the Netball Complex for the homegoing service of Lester Blackett. Such an important figure in our society, in sports, into primary, engineering, Mr. Everything.
Disaster management,
all of that. And I can't name everybody, but of course tomorrow, Rawlinson's Isaac's mother, who lived in Keon but originally from Cotton Ground, is doing 2 rounds. A service in St. Kitts, then coming over to Nevis on iConnect, and the final service at the Clifton Methodist Church. I hope to attend that. As I said, we got to hold together, especially as we go through to Culturama 50. One love, one people.
Mr. Manners, one more thing before I go. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my little brother who's home right now. He's an army man. Yes, he's in the U.S. Army, but he's home right now. So Shylan Keynes Jardine, big up to my little brother. It was such a pleasure seeing him. He just likes these surprises. I remember Star said, "Mommy, Uncle Shylan outside, Mommy, Uncle Shylan outside." And I was like, "Mommy, no." I mean, Star, no. "Yes, Mommy, Uncle Shylan outside." And when I looked, there was Uncle Shylan. And it was such a pleasure because guess what? On Friday, he was able to take his niece to the father-child social of the Charleston Primary School, and it just warmed my heart. And I know it was a great feeling for him because he used to attend that father-child social with his uncle because his father was overseas. And in my daughter's case, where her father is overseas, he was able to take her. So it was really, it was just so good. And then we joked in the family chat because I was checking my watch, and I'm like, "But my child ain't reach home yet," for he to tell me he taking his niece out to dinner.
Where?
You know, they went down Sunshines and the Limeade and I'm like, you know, my sisters are joking saying, "No, in JD, she in the parking lot right now waiting," because they know that I'm very protective and stuff. So shout out to my little brother Shylan. I mean, it's a shame that you're gonna have to leave us again soon, but we are so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I love you, love you, love you. And whenever you get the opportunity to come home, you know, I appreciate that. So yes, I had to shout out my brother.
Family is everything.
Yes.
My 2 nieces who came from Toronto, Canada, daughters of my eldest brother who couldn't be here, so they came to represent him. They fly out tomorrow.
Nice.
We'll love you.
Yes.
That's our show for Monday, June the 3rd. Good night.
Good night.
Are you concerned about your health? Come on, everyone should be. The old people say